Now then, explorers, welcome to yet another lockdown episode of Shaun Explores. This week we're going to be looking at one of my old favourites, the Jetboil Flash 2. Now this thing isn't exactly cheap. I believe they were going on sale the other day for around £69, but at the minute, looking online, all I can find is £100 for the Jetboil on its own, and that's without the pan stand. It's a cracking piece of kit. You've probably seen it in some of my other videos. I use it for boiling water for brews, boiling water for cooking hot dogs in, or even for those freeze-dried meals and even boiled bags. So it's a very versatile piece of kit. It's not the most compact piece of kit. However, it does the job perfectly and it's never let me down. So I understand that £100 is quite expensive for people who are just getting into the hobby. You already have a big outlay on things like your rucksack, your sleeping bag, your tent, etc. So another £100 to throw into the mix can be quite expensive. Now what I have done is I've found another piece of kit that looks pretty similar. Has flux ring in the bottom, very similar. It is slightly bigger, but this little beauty, believe it or not, is only £30. So what we'll do is we'll put the two together. I'm going to look at them in depth, look at the components, see if they're made out of similar things, see if this thing will last anywhere near as long as this, and we'll give you the verdict. £100 versus 30 quid. Now I have already taken this stove out of the packaging. It just comes in a pretty plain cardboard box, no branding on it, bits of plastic wrap and whatnot, and this strange sort of stuff sack, would you call it? Don't really see the point in this, so I'll be getting rid of that. Yeah, so on first impressions, you know, it's wider, it's shorter, but there's no denying that it's basically been copied off the Jetboil. Now the fins on the flux ring on the cheaper Jobsworth stove, they're a bit more spaced out and there isn't as many of them, but essentially it'll do exactly the same job. Looking inside the two at what you'll get, take the lid off that one. So the Jobsworth actually comes with a pan stand. You don't have to buy this extra. I'll explain how you use this later. But something to note about the Jetboil is that you actually have to pay extra for one of these, which I have done, and I'll show you how it all fits in a minute. Okay, next up in the Jobsworth, you've got the stove itself. Okay. Quite similar to the Jetboil Flash 2. We'll compare these in detail in a minute. As I mentioned earlier about the Jetboil's pan stand, separate pan stand, you do have to buy this extra. It doesn't come with the kit with the Jetboil. And then you can fit your gas in here. You can fit your gas in there. Then inside, you get a little triangle stand in each, which your gas will clip into. So far then, looking at the two, it's definitely a rip-off of a Jetboil. So what we'll do now, I've laid everything out in a row. You've got the pot itself, the burner, a gas pot, the stand, and a pan stand as well. So what we'll do is we'll just go through each component for each one and find out if the quality's any good on the Jobsworth. So I know the Jetboil pretty well. I know how it's made. It has like an elastic neoprene cover. This comes off. It also has an indicator on here to show you when your water's boiled. So that's a handy little feature on the Jetboil. When the water does reach boiling, this flame logo here goes orange. I do like that about this product. I don't know if it's an essential or whether it's a bit of a luxury, but either way. Jetboil flux ring. I don't know if you can see that, but basically it's sort of spot welded on with multiple spot welds on each fin. Jobsworth, pretty much exactly the same. I did say earlier there's not as many fins. Don't know if that would make a difference. Bit less surface area, might take a bit longer to boil, but we'll see that in a bit. One thing I'm not too keen on with the Jobsworth are these rattly handles. Yes, it's nice to have a proper handle, but the Jetboil does the job okay with its fabric handle. No noise. Bit of noise with this. The next we'll look at the burners. First we'll start off with the Jetboil. So the Jetboil has your little valve at the bottom there. This pops out. Close it in when you're storing it. Opening it up when you're going to use it to burn. There's a nice little plus and negative on there to tell you which way to go. Pretty well made. It's like a square valve regulator with the plastic formed around it. Okay. It's got these sort of fins here. This will allow air to go in as well with the gas so it ignites. And obviously out here comes your flame. Has got a self-igniter there, so you can, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Let's have a look at the Jobsworth 2. Okay, looks like quite a bit of a smaller gas regulator. I don't know if you can call it a regulator because they don't really regulate, but again, plastic formed around it. This one, not as fancy looking. And the plastic doesn't seem to be as good a quality as the Jetboil, but kind of feels a bit like Bakelite, but not as brittle. I mean, I think it's up to the job. It's just not as nicely finished as the Jetboil. Jetboil has kind of like a soft finish to it. It feels completely different. Similar sort of thickness. Again, you've got a little self-igniter there, so you can just turn the gas on and just ignite like that. Looking on the top, okay, there's no doubt that the Jobsworth is a cheaper material. On the Jetboil, it's some sort of anodized aluminium, same as the pot, whereas on the Jobsworth, they've gone for this cheap sort of tin material. Now, again, I don't think that makes much of a difference. I think you're just getting a more premium product with the Jetboil. Okay, so what we'll do is we will get the pots and see how they connect. Pretty much exactly the same. You have two little indentations in the Jetboil. You've got one little knob there and one little knob there. And all they do is slide into these. So good. As you can imagine, Jobsworth being a rip-off of the Jetboil, same little connections, same little indentations here. So we'll put this in. Yeah, that's not the most secure. I'm going to have to try something here. Right, so these two now it fits. What the heck? Oh no. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my pair of slip grips and I'm going to bend these in a little. Okay. Right, those stupid handles. That is bang on. Happy days, fixed it. So next what I'm going to do, I'm going to screw each one onto their respective gas canister. Now, these are both old. There's not a lot in them, that's a bit more full, but what I'm looking for is gas leakage. Does me head in a bit when you lose a bit of gas when you screw a stove on. I have had it with most of my stoves, some do, some don't, so we'll start off with the Jobsworth. Oh, flip the little gas regulator valve out. You know a little thing I like about that? You get this little tab with your gas regulator valve. Okay. So it's off, I believe. Positive connection on the thread. Pass the test. Next is a Jetboil. With the Jetboil, I always forget to flip out the little regulator handle. I end up screwing this on and then having to unscrew it yet again to flip this out and put it back in. Maybe Jetboil should put a little red tab on there, as that might remind me. Okay, positive connection on the Jetboil. No gas leakage. Happy days. Okay, next we're going to have a little look at the pan stands. So these are just dead basic. Everyone makes the same ones. There's not really much difference to any pan stand that I've seen. The idea is it's a nice big area, and then your gas just clips in like that. So, you know, gives you a bit of a wider stance so it isn't going to fall over. So we'll have a go with the Jobsworth pan stand. Yeah, same sort of thing. Decent. So next we're going to have a little look at the pan stands that you get with each of them. I say you get with each of them. You get one free with the Jobsworth. You have to buy one for the Jetboil separately. I'll put the price of that somewhere on the screen now because I've not pre-researched it. Okay, so what we'll have to do is we'll take the pots off each one. That is a nice positive connection now I've done that modification to it. We'll start with a Jetboil one, obviously, because it's the original. These little side things fold away for storage, and for use, you just fold them out. Okay, and then you end up with a pan stand. At the bottom, these little lugs, these little slots here, slot into here basically. So we'll just stick that on there. He says, there you go. That's on nice and easy, and they sit on just like that. Okay. So as you'd imagine, with a copy of a Jetboil, I don't know how these Chinese companies get away with it, but fair dues. Again, these just fold out. Okay. And then you end up with a bigger surface to put your pan on. As you'd imagine, little grooves in your feet, and these just, he says, there you go, just sits on like that. Not too shabby. So obviously the Jobsworth's quite a bit bigger. Now I have used the Jetboil briefly with a pan and I found that it wasn't that stable with my pan. We'll have a little look now. So here's a frying pan I collected earlier. Stick it on there. Yeah, it's not too bad. You have to sort of sit the pan forward. I'll show you this way. If I put it dead centre, then the handle's going to tip it back with the weight. You have to sort of sit it forward. So you just have to remember that when the heat's going to be concentrated to one side of the pan. That's fine. It might be exactly the same with the Jobsworth as well. Yeah, it is a little bit wobbly. Move it forward a bit. It takes a bit more weight. Saying that, yeah, it's the same with both really. It's like with any camping stove, unless you've got a massive hob ring, then you're gonna have to move your pan about. But yeah, they seem to do the trick. Suppose we better get a boil on then. So in these cups, I've got exactly 250ml of cold water straight out of the tap, and that's pretty much exactly what I'll need for a cup. Excuse the lack of outdoor cups, but it's lockdown, we're in the house, I guess I'll have to do. So, pour the 250ml in each cup. Looks lost in the Jobsworth, to be honest with you, with how wide that is. There we go. We'll pop the lids on, to make it boil a bit quicker. And for this experiment, I've just bought some cheap gas. Got it from B&M, Summit. It was about £4 for. If you'd like to be in with a chance of winning this Jobsworth X2 stove, then simply head on over to Facebook, search Shaun Explores, where you'll find my page. Full terms and conditions are available on there. Good luck. Well, I think it's safe to say that the Jetboil absolutely smashed that. Rolling boil on 250ml of water, enough for a brew, done in 55 seconds. That's pretty good. Now, the Jobsworth took an extra 50%, so 1 minute 30, 50% extra give or take. Would that bother me out in the field when I'm up in the mountains? Probably not. You know, you can't argue the fact that the Jetboil is definitely the quicker at boiling. It is a higher quality finish on all of the components. It goes without saying, but does that matter? Again, probably not. This thing's gonna get lugged in my backpack. I need it to do a job. Don't get me wrong, I like my things to look nice and, you know, and be good quality, and the Jetboil Flash 2 is definitely a great product. But for the saving that you make with this, for 30 quid, I can recommend this to anyone, to be honest. I mean, I have had a look at the components. They are good enough to last. Yeah, like I mentioned, they're not exactly as good a finish as the Jetboil, but 30 quid? How? So what's the Shaun Explores verdict on the Jobsworth X2 versus the Jetboil Flash 2? If you're just starting out and you're starting to collect all your kit and you want a self-contained unit like the Jetboil, go and buy the Jobsworth X2. It's 30 quid. Yeah, you have to pay £3 something postage, but 33 quid compared to 100 quid for something that essentially does the same job. Yes, the Jetboil does boil slightly quicker. If you're adamant that you need the quickest boil time possible, then of course go and get the Jetboil. But my advice would be, if I'd have seen this video myself when I was setting out, I would have got the Jobsworth and we wouldn't have the Jetboil sat here right now. So ratings out of 10, Jetboil is the original. It's top quality, it boils much faster. This is a Jetboil comparison video, so the Jetboil comes in at 10 out of 10. And the Jobsworth, it's managed to copy the Jetboil very, very well. Yeah, the dimensions aren't the same, but generally what it does it exactly the same. It does take a little bit longer and the finish isn't as good. So overall, I'm gonna give the Jobsworth X2 an 8 out of 10. That's good enough in my book. As always, thanks for watching. I'll put the link to the Jobsworth X2 down below. You get it from Planet X Bikes online. 30 quid plus 3 quid postage there or thereabouts. If you like the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. If you've got any questions on either of the products, as always, bang it in the comments section and I'll get back to you. And if you want to see any more kit reviews, any of my adventures, and you want to be reminded with a notification to your mobile phone, click the subscribe button as well as a bell notification. Thank you very much. Peace!